Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Let's Talk Arsenal series, and for our big question show, which is basically an excuse, is what it is. It's all it is. It's an excuse to do a show is what this has become. On a day that Arsenal have made their first signing as well, and I'm very happy today to be joined by Sophie from the Highbury squad. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me, Tom. Been enjoying your shows. You've been smashing it. And if I may say so, without a number 10, you've been the number 10 this summer. So very nice. Great playmaker.
If Arteta's got my number, I'll play the whole. So it's all good. So that came across really wrong. Playing that back in my mind. What did that mean?
I'll take 15% if I can get you 150 grand a week.
Sounds good. Sounds good by me. You can finally buy some a decent camera, so a good studio. That'd be nice, and sort all of our other YouTube friends out for that sort of thing as well. It'd be great. Anyway, yeah, it's great to have you on the show, Soph, because obviously we rarely be able to go back and forth because we're both so busy with the stuff that we do. And I remember the last time you came on the channel was our big debate about Arteta all that time ago. And I've been on your show a couple of times since, doing some really interesting stuff. I mean, the show we've been on together on Mike's channel, where we just talked about ourselves for an hour, which is great. Who doesn't love doing that? So yeah, it's been great. But the season's obviously finished, and we finished 8th, and now the transfer window has begun. The Euros are nearly over, and Arsenal have made one signing so far. Are you worried? Is the right word I'd probably use. Are you worried at this stage, or are you still pretty chill about things?
I'm not worried at all, because I think the Euros take a lot out of the ability to finalize business. So I think if the Euros weren't happening, I'd probably have a little bit of a panic inside me. But I do think that there's a long way to go still until the transfer window closes. The only thing, Tom, that worries me is getting new players together and integrating them into a team that was already kind of broken in the Premier League last season. That's the biggest thing for me. Him having time in pre-season to work with players, as we've seen with COVID and a short pre-season, and the fact that these players have been playing non-stop pretty much now for what? Is it 16 months?
Yeah.
I think that's my biggest concern of all. And once Sunday's over, I think things are going to fall into place pretty quickly. You would hope they would fall into place pretty quickly. But we did make a signing, and it's a good signing. It's a solid signing. And it's a signing that we all felt we needed, a backup for Kieran Tierney, who's been injured quite a few times since he's come to the Arsenal. And, seems like a good player, solid player, a player that a lot of people have a respect for and think that he's going places. So, yeah, the first of many, hopefully, because we certainly need reinforcements in many other positions.
Let's talk about the player, because I was listening to you say that, and I'm thinking everything I've said about this guy has not really been that great. And it's really interesting because I've listened to some other podcasts, and again, it's been very divided, very mixed. And I guess it's a case of who you talk to about him. I mean, I spoke to a Sporting fan, obviously was a little bit biased, and weren't that keen on him, and said that effectively that he didn't feel he was ready to make that step up to Arsenal. Like, he wasn't even ready to make the step up to be the starting left back at Benfica, let alone be a backup at Arsenal so far. So talk to me about kind of your knowledge about him and who you've spoken to about him and stuff.
Well, I mean, I had a good conversation with Harry about him on his podcast and our podcast. I've talked to Kev about him as well. And I think one of the things that we're very quick to do is judge. What I've liked about your shows during the transfer window, Tom, is that when you know a player and his talent, you can speak to it. When you don't know as much, you've had a lot of experts on explaining or talking to you about what makes them tick, what makes them work, what might make them a success at the Arsenal. Yeah. And I think every single signing is a risk, right? And we're very quick to judge because we live in an instant gratification world. This isn't a player that we've signed for millions and millions of dollars. Of course, he's at 7 million. That's a lot of money in any walk of life. That's a lot of money.
Amazon documentary is what it is.
Stop. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
He's a backup for a player that we hope is going to stay injury-free this season. And he's a player that hopefully can come in and work his way through understanding the game and the Premier League. When we're dealing with, here's a juxtaposition for you. Saliba, who we spent 27 million on, and clearly our staff and our manager don't think he's ready to play in the Premier League. Yet he's had 2 outstanding loan spells. And when he was at St. Etienne, he was the star of the show and Fofana was his partner. And now Fofana has been given a chance at Leicester and is shining in the Premier League. And our guy Saliba is still hoping to get a chance to play for the Arsenal. So I think we need to take a deep breath and just give the guy a chance. Clearly, they see good things in him. Character and attitude, I think, are the 2 things I come away from the people I've talked to, Tom, because those are very important things for Arteta. But also talent, as we know in the Premier League, is essential. He's never... My biggest concern is the adapting to the Premier League. We even saw Thomas Partey find that difficult. You know, he gained a muscle injury that hampered him a little bit. And even through that hampering, we still saw his quality. So I say take a deep breath. He's a player that a lot of teams were looking at. We've ended up with him. We've spent 7 million. He's a backup. Let's just kind of give him an opportunity because his opportunity will come if history tells us that Tierney's going to be injured again at some point this season.
And that for me was always kind of the biggest importance around this, whoever the signing was going to be, because we know that Tierney at some stage is probably going to miss a few games. It's the trend that we've experienced, not only at Arsenal, but when he arrived from Celtic injured and it took him a while before he got into the Arsenal team because of that. And that's why I was always kind of wary about who we were going to bring in as backup. Now, I like the profile, though. I like the age, I like the price, and I think that is a good sign for Arsenal because for too long we've gone out and signed free transfers or overspent on certain players that are too old, that have got no sell-on value. And when you look at this type of signing, for me, it's a case of if he's back up for 2 years, he plays a few games in a couple of seasons. If it doesn't work out, another club can come in for him when he's 23 years of age. You may make your money back. You may make a slight loss. You may make a slight gain. And then you just repeat the process whilst Tierney's still our main man. But I'm worried about the pressure on him if Tierney does get injured immediately.
And here's the scoop. I think any player, Kevin says this to me all the time, the badge weighs more than people think. We may be really poor in the Premier League right now. We may have been a poor Premier League team for a number of seasons. Yeah. But Arsenal Football Club, I think people mistake sometimes Premier League status for club status. And on a global level, Arsenal Football Club is still a draw. You hear him talking about in his interview, the players that he admires now in the team are The Smith and Saka, and also looking back, Thierry Henry. And Thierry Henry is that legendary player, just like Zizou at Real Madrid, whether it's, a Pirlo at Juventus or an Nedved, or it's somebody like Thomas Müller at Bayern Munich, Messi at Barcelona. There are players that just draw people in. And at the end of the day, players are fans. And Kev says that a lot. He goes, I'm an Arsenal fan, right? So I think sometimes we get caught up in that a little bit. But we put pressure on players as fans because we want instant gratification. And I think that behind closed doors, there's a plan and a purpose for every single player. Timing, integration, all of these different things. And when you come in from a different league and it's a different language, it's a different culture, those things are very difficult. I moved from England to the United States years and years ago. And even though it's a country where we speak the same language and I can read the road signs and all of these things, it was still a difficult transition to be away from my family, my friends. But I moved here because of a career opportunity. And I think that, when young players do that, sometimes we just expect them to just click, and the world doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that either. Now, would I have preferred maybe someone as a backup to Tierney that had Premier League experience? Yes, but we've also poo-pooed Premier League experienced players, whether in different positions or the same positions, whether it's a Ryan Bertrand or somebody like that. Arsenal fans have kind of gone into meltdown at the thought of someone like that coming to the club.
They don't do that. That doesn't sound like them.
So I think in this instance, we need to give him the benefit of the doubt. Now, if you're a Nicola Pepe and you're coming to the club, Tom, at 72 million, unfortunately for Nicola, that is something that comes with much more stress, pressure, expectation, instant impact. Whereas I think with Tavares, it's a little bit different.
I hope for me, it's a lot of the doubt that surrounds him. I hope is fuel, to be honest, for him to, because it's naive to think that the players will not see some of the doubt that surrounds them, that they all have social media. Some may say they don't read the comments, but it's very difficult when you're in the public domain to not see what is being said about you, especially from a footballing standpoint where egos and arrogance are necessary for the top players to perform and have that self-belief. And that ties into then looking on social media and seeing the doubt that there is in you. And I'm hoping that if he does see the doubt that is there currently, that he uses that as fuel to try and prove people like myself that have the doubts about him. And I hope I'm very much proven wrong from the start, and he succeeds massively.
Tom, I've wanted to be proven wrong about Arteta. I've been wanting to be proven wrong about Pepe.
When do we have that on the clock? I've got 11 minutes. 11 minutes.
I've got humble pie baking, and I've had it baking. I want to eat the humble pie with cream and ice cream. I mean, we want people coming in, players coming in, whoever's coming into the Arsenal to succeed, because if they succeed, our team succeeds. And that makes fans happy, and we can enjoy kind of watching our team on a different level again. But just life isn't that simple. Things just don't work that way. And we're coming also out of a very tricky period in our lives as humans. You know, we've been slapped in the face. Mortality has hit us all, head on. You look in the mirror, and things that you may have thought you can plan for in the future, you've kind of thought about, what is life going to be like, especially after all the things that we've gone through. And slowly, everything's getting back to normal. And these players are human beings, as well. And they've had to endure and go through a lot. We've been able to work from home behind closed doors and windows. They've had to go out and entertain us. Sometimes I feel like it's a bit like the Hunger Games or Gladiator. Are you not entertained, And I think that comes with an insurmountable pressure sometimes. And I've even learned to kind of take a step back and look at things a little bit differently and say, okay, you know what? Sometimes we just need to give people time and the benefit of the doubt. And the problem with that is in the world of sports, that is not always a luxury. And that's the toughest part to deal with.
100%. I mean, the mentality wise for Arsenal has always been a big question of players, and kind of getting over expectation, getting over the social aspect that comes with being an Arsenal player. Because if we're honest, it is different to a lot of other clubs, and the focus around you, the pressure, the expectation to try and drag this club back to where we all expect and want it to be. And that will go for any signing that comes in. And as you say, the last 18 months have been such a strange, difficult period for everybody. And obviously in England, we've now got kind of in a way, a culmination of all of that hurt and pain in regards to kind of our connection with the sport, or the lack of connection, not being able to go to games, feeling almost like a reward getting to a European final with the Euros tomorrow night. But from the players' perspective, as you say, it's such a chaotic and fractured period. And also the amount of time they spent training at home, just having like workout plans sent to them every single day, and the effect that might have on a very social people that spend every single day around their teammates, to have that ripped away from them, as we have all experienced.
Exactly. So
it's going to be huge, and fingers crossed that they can, this season with the fans back in grounds and everything like that, it's going to be an interesting spectacle to see how we do change, if anything.
It is. And I'm really interested to see kind of how Arsenal fans react in stadium, because I think that was a luxury Mikel Arteta was able to enjoy is not the right word, Tom. I don't know what the right word is, but not having the fans there for our home form, especially, he kind of got away with it a little bit, I think. And, our home form was woeful. It flipped. It's so weird. Like under the last tenure of Wenger and Emery, our away form was just woeful and our home form was fantastic. And under Arteta, he improved our away form, but our home form really suffered. And I think those are the things that they need to work on, just some key fundamentals. We're starting bottom up, and that's the truth, which is really weird to say for a club like Arsenal. And, I've had a lot of time to reflect, especially during the Euros and stuff, and watching England get to the final and being a Generation Xer. I never thought I'd see the day. I saw Greece win the Euros before I saw England even get to a final. And I think the togetherness, the fact that you've got these players from all these different teams, you know, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, Man United, Chelsea, it shows you that no matter what the culture is during the season, you can come together collectively. And I think I'm hoping that for Arsenal fans, like somehow we can come together collectively, and no matter what the team is that goes out on the pitch in that first game in August, you know, we can just get behind them and support them and have your opinions, be critical, but always just try and get behind the team.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's really difficult for people to, I think, to understand where the line is at times between blurring between criticism and what abuse is. And I also think sometimes people think what criticism is, and they perceive that to be as an abusive or an attack on the coach when it's not. Criticism and abuse are very, very different. And yes, the line can get blurred sometimes, but it is important that if you are being critical of a player or of a manager or whoever, it is just criticism, and you still want them to turn that around. And if you are or have got kind of an opinion about someone, there's nothing more that we want to be than proven wrong and for them to go and succeed at the club.
Exactly. And Tom, didn't you think it was fair? For example, I was very critical of Aubameyang turning up late as captain for the North London derby. I think that's unacceptable. If I turned up late for a major presentation at work, I'd probably get fired, to be honest. It's not gonna roll. And so I think those are the things I'm trying to give an example of. You know, I think that warranted criticism, right? But there are other instances where you're trying to kind of explain that too, in the sense that you just can't abuse someone just because they keep missing chances, or, you know, there's a way of kind of, you know, talking about how you feel, what you feel, why you think the way you think. And we all know the difference between criticism and bullying and abuse. But I think it's okay to hold our captain accountable for that moment. And 100%. I would have stripped him of the captaincy personally. I think, you know, that's a no-go for me. So yeah, I mean, it's never going to be right until success starts happening. And that now is the position that Arsenal Football Club are in. I fear for the club. I fear for Arteta. If we get off to a negative start, if we're in the same position, you and I have talked about this on our show, come October, November, he can't still be in that job if we're in the same position in the Premier League, even with new reinforcements. So, especially with new reinforcements. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because this is going to be his team now, isn't it? In his image, the most that we've seen in his tenure.
I mean, if you look through the squads, you'd go Leno, and then no centre back, Tierney, Leno, Tierney, Xhaka's going, Aubameyang and Lacazette. I'm just trying to name all the players that aren't his. Like
Pepe, Aubameyang, Laka, El Neni, Chambers. I mean, Bellerin's still there. Yeah. You've got Tierney. I mean, El Neni. Gabriel, Mari, they're all his. Cedric. Who knows what's happening with Cedric? I mean,
I'm hoping that he moves on, to be honest. Not specifically down to his criticism of him. I'm just trying to see as many of the Kia influence kind of players out of the club, just through things that you hear and not great things being said at all about kind of that influence on the club being not very good, basically.
I agree. I think if he wants to truly have a team that is a team in his image, playing his style, his players of character, whatever it is that he expects from a team and from himself as a manager, he's got to be able to move. See, personally, I would have moved on El Neni. I would have moved on Chambers. I mean, you know, Bellerin, go. I mean, January was a great transfer window. We got rid of a lot of the toxicity that was around the club. You could argue that, you know, was it time for maybe Lacazette, and is Aubameyang? Can you really build a team around a 32-year-old who seems to be more into his cars than into playing football lately? And I'm not trying to, Aubameyang can enjoy his money and buy cars as much as he wants. I don't care about that. But you also can't show, you have to be more than apathetic when you're playing for, you can't be apathetic when you're playing for the Arsenal, put it that way.
No. I think he was naive last season. I think there was a lot of naivety around the new contract, around the idea of him wanting to become a legend, about not having fans. And when, to be honest, when I heard the interview where he said he's struggled with there not being fans, that's a big red flag for me. Because
weak sauce.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It just strikes me of if you need that kind of attention to perform, and that the fact that the badge on your chest is not enough of a motivation, that is a big issue. And especially when that's your captain of your clubs saying that's an issue. I
mean, look how Tierney carries himself, and look how Saka and ESR carry themselves. Even Martinelli, the adversity he's faced with the injury, with the fighting back. And I get it. It's all fun to see players in the dressing room on Instagram and social media and stuff like that. But he seems so immature, you know? And when you hear youth players, academy players, current players in the first team talking about Lacazette the way they do versus Aubameyang, I never hear anyone talking about Aubameyang the way they do about Lacazette. And I know some people have issue with Lacazette and, you know, the fact that he's not as prolific a goal scorer, but I also think what he's done for the team and what he's done for the younger players in the team has and carries a lot of weight.
I think that Aubameyang signing will be looked back upon as, and I know it's going to sound silly with the amount of goals that he scored for us, but I think the fact that we had a £50 million striker and they went and spent another £50 million 6 months later on a player that played in his same position, that will be looked back upon as a bit of an error. And maybe if we had have really kind of put the emphasis on Lacazette to be our sole striker over those years, maybe he could have reached the potential that we saw. Maybe he could have got as regular goal scoring talents as we saw that he had in Lyon. So it's a strange one.
I mean, I don't want to see, I don't know what you thought of it. And maybe I'm being too harsh because I've kind of been mad at him this last season. But at the same time, he's also had some personal struggles.
Oh, absolutely.
But I also think that, you know, when you have those struggles, you can't use them. And I say this so carefully because I don't want people to think I'm being too harsh, but you can't use them as excuses for mediocrity or not moving on or trying or doing things. And maybe that's my background and where I come from and what I've been taught in terms of how you overcome adversity and deal with difficult things. And you got to get on with life. You got to push on, right, Tom?
Yeah.
I don't want to see him doing backflips in a pool in Mykonos after the season he's had. I just don't want to see that. You know, especially when so many people can't even travel to see their family. I don't want Arsenal Football Club to be so lame to try and sell me Aubameyang because he's, you know, training in Mykonos or doing backflips in a pool. I just think that's childish. You know, you don't see Chelsea and Man City and other teams doing that. I don't know. I just felt like they're trying to shove him down our throat to believe that next season is going to be different. And I hope it is. I really do.
Yeah, so do I. No, I 100% get what you're saying and I talked about this with the Torreira situation. He went through something horrific, something I've not experienced. I'm very lucky I haven't lost one of my parents, and obviously he did. And when that happened, and obviously the interviews came out saying that he wanted to leave, he wanted to go to Boca Juniors, and I understood, obviously, I can completely understand that situation. But at the same time, I am sitting there thinking from an economic, from a work standpoint and going, we've spent 25-ish million euros on this guy. And in one interview, he quartered his value on the market by declaring a club that he wanted to go to publicly. And obviously we can understand the reaction because of the horrific incident that's happened to him. But at the same time, life will still move on. And it was and I think we've heard from recent interviews that now he's kind of that moment and period has moved on, and he's talked about just basically wanting to just crack down, wait for things to kind of settle down and then see what happens this summer window. It's not going to happen with Boca Juniors. They don't have the financial capacity to take him on.
Right.
So but that in itself is one of those moments where you're like, you know, maybe a little bit more support would help a player in that instance. And that also makes me worry about how the players have been handled over the last 18 months, because we hear interviews with Maitland-Niles saying that he's not even heard from the manager. He doesn't know what's happening to him this summer.
Right.
I didn't appreciate the interview. Obviously, I appreciate the fact that we've now got that information. I thought that's something that should have been kept in-house, but now we do know. It's something to comment on. And that was a big worry for me from that standpoint, that the players didn't know what they...
A couple things on what you're saying, because you bring up a great point. Look at Liverpool, right? Klopp lost a parent. Alisson lost a parent. They were never the same after that. And that's where we have to take a breath and say, these are human beings with lives, families, people they love, right?
Yeah.
I have a partner who lost her mum and dad in the space of a very short time. And you never overcome that. You just find a way to live with it every day differently. Your life evolves. It's very different to how you even knew it was to be. And so those things are really, really tough. And Torreira, you felt it was heartfelt. Aubameyang going through maybe thinking he was losing his mother. I mean, that is, traumatic. Look at Saliba. He's like 19. He's lost a parent. And people want to kind of slam him because, oh, is he ready? Is he not? It's not even about that. I mean, at the end of the day, people have human feelings and emotions, and mentally and physically it affects you, right? So those are really tough things to overcome in life. And especially when you're in the spotlight, there's this insurmountable pressure that is put on you. And at the same time, just like everyone in life, like my partner, she's got to get up in the morning, go work, pay bills, pay the mortgage, do all these things. And that's the reality of life. It goes on, you move on, and you have to find ways to move on. And some people do it easily than others. And you talk about Arteta and wanting to keep things behind closed doors. We're a reality TV show now, Tom.
Let's talk about this. This is great. I mean, okay, I'll put my kind of version of events out in a second. What was, when you saw the tweet, because obviously waking up on the West Coast, I imagine you saw this well after it was actually announced. Yeah. What was your initial reaction? And then I want to know what your reflection was, say 6 hours after the initial reaction.
Okay, so firstly, my first reaction was, wow, they kept this a good secret. I'm impressed how no one really kind of had a teaser or there was no, Ornstein or Watts or, bell. Any inkling you got or a bell or anything. Yeah. And it was just like, I was horrified. Horrified.
Really?
I really was. That was my initial reaction, because two things. One, having been in the entertainment industry my entire career and been involved in like filmmaking, TV show and reality TV shows, the first thing I thought was, oh God, this could be an unmitigated disaster, right?
Yeah. That's kind of great, though.
It's either going to go two ways. I know. It's like keeping up with the Arsenal, right? Keeping up with the Kardashians. I'm thinking, well, if Mark Wahlberg can do the Wahlburgers, then certainly Arsenal maybe could do all or nothing. But just knowing how scripted a lot of this stuff is, it's not really spontaneous. It's very planned. Every scene, you have there's a shooting schedule. There's a demand from producers and the network to be able to get certain things. Amazon are going to be looking for the Jeopardy. They're going to be looking for all of those touch points, because that's part of entertainment, right? So that was my initial reaction, was, oh God. Then the flip side of that, after I was able to digest it for a little bit, Tom, was this could be the most amazing chronicle for us Arsenal fans to look back on in our comeback. Like we'd actually have it on celluloid. Coming back, being competitive in the Premier League again, getting back into Champions League football, maybe winning a domestic cup, and really seeing the new Arsenal culture and DNA be reborn. And so I tried to flip it to a positive and try to leave the things I know as a professional out the window. Those were my two honest initial reactions. What about you?
So, similar to you, it was a case of wow when I saw it. Like and to be honest, I was like, that's awesome. Like I was like, that's so sick. Like I was absolutely buzzing. And I said it on the show because I did a show about 20 minutes after it was announced, just because it was on my day off. So I was free reign to just throw up and do a live show reaction, and we did that. And I ended the show by just saying I'm absolutely buzzing about it, because I loved the Manchester City series. Have you seen the Spurs and Man City ones?
I loved the City one for a few episodes, and then I think it got a little pep self-indulgent towards the end. I like the idea of why City did it, trying to gain new followers around the world. They're a smaller club doing great, big things, Tom. And I think that was an angle for them to to showcase like, here's our success, but we come on board, join the ride. Because City are huge in terms of winning, but they're still a smaller club than us, than Chelsea, than United and all those. Tottenham did it for different reasons, right?
I haven't seen the Tottenham one. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Have you?
I'm going to admit that, yes.
No, it's fine. I'm probably going to go and watch it now because I wasn't watching out of like, we have a funny rule when we do our fantasy football. It's a case of like, I have a rule where I don't use any Spurs players. And some of the people in the league do use Spurs players, and we have a big laugh about it. But it wasn't a case of me. I didn't watch the Spurs thing because it was Spurs. I think it was because they obviously beat us in the Jose Mourinho North London derby, and I knew that there was going to be a big thing. And I still haven't seen it, so I might be wrong, but I imagine there was kind of a big thing about the North London derby in the series, and I just wasn't really. I didn't want to really watch kind of a biased side from Spurs within that game.
For me, it was. This is why I reacted the way I did to the Arsenal thing, because when I saw the Spurs one, Mourinho made the comment that went viral. I want you guys to be a bunch of see you next Tuesdays, right?
Yeah, sure.
And then there was the clown in the show, which was Dele Alli. The whole beans thing and all this type of stuff. And I was thinking, I don't want someone like, and I say this and I hope you can understand where I'm coming from. I think you will. I don't want Saka on a unicorn becoming a laughing stock. I want
too late.
I don't want players to be looked at as clowns, but there's going to be a clown. There has to be. It's a TV show. So is that clown going to be Aubameyang? Is it going to be Pepe? I really hope it's not going to be Saka, because he's such a wonderful human being and such a lovely boy, and he's ingrained himself in the England team and they talk about him like a son and whatever, but he's a fantastic footballer with an amazing future ahead of him. Arsenal should be building a team around him. They should be doing everything to support his talent, ESR's talent, Tierney, Martinelli, and build a proper Premier League team that can compete and then start thinking about winning. So I don't want Saka Unicorn to become like the all or nothing laughing stock. And I think that's my biggest fear, is we'll become a meme and a dartboard. And we are already that. And this show could add fuel to the fire.
Oh, yeah.
And that's my biggest concern.
Look, Arsenal footballing seasons in the modern era, and when I say modern, I'm talking kind of post 2010, have not been perfect at any point. Post 2007, really, I suppose. It's been a absolute, at times, a real struggle, and there has been some really embarrassing moments. And I don't think next season will be devoid of something or a few things that are not going to be looked upon as meme styled or really kind of comedic value. There will be something. It's very difficult for there not to be something. And I saw there was a big reaction online, and a lot of people who I really value their opinions and really genuinely follow them for their insights and for their kind of level-headedness. But I saw a hell of a lot of hyperbole about the whole thing from my perspective. A lot of people really slamming it, saying how embarrassing it's going to be, saying this. And I get the concept of thinking about, yes, it's going to really open up the world to the issues that maybe are going on behind the scenes. And yes, it's probably going to be censored, and Arsenal are probably going to say, look, we don't want this being shown, etc., etc., etc. Which is a shame, but it's the way of the world, and you can't really expect anything less than that. I just think that it is going. I think it's a great thing. I really do think it's a great thing.
From a commercial point of view, we need revenue.
10 million. So yeah.
Right now, you could say, well, sell Xhaka or sell Willock or sell Bellerin or sell X or Y. Now, it's what you're getting, that 10 or 15 million from Amazon, but what you're getting in certain markets and territories are new fans who are going to buy merchandise, who are going to get involved in Arsenal tours and all sorts of stuff. So there's a monetary strategy to all of this, right? And it's all about building brand equity in the Arsenal. And the Cronkies are business people at the end of the day. And I just don't want it to turn into a circus. And at the same time, if people think they're going to learn about the ins and outs of how Arsenal works, that's not how reality TV works. This is a docuseries, but it's a reality TV show. They're going to let you see what they want. What you're going to learn about maybe, And what we talked about on Highbury Squad the other night with Kev was maybe you'll learn about more of Balogun. Who is he? What makes him tick? You'll learn more about Aziz. You might learn even more about Gabriel. We don't really know him as a human being, right? We know Aubameyang as a captain. These are the things that you're going to see and learn the most about. But don't think for a second you're going to learn about what makes the Cronkies tick or the club tick, because that's not what this show is going to be about. And also, is Arteta as charismatic as Pep Guardiola? Is he as charismatic as Mourinho? Now, he may be a better human than Mourinho or a better communicator than Mourinho, but how is he going to come across? How's he going to deal with this? The good thing is that he has already done this with Man City, but on a much lower level, right? But he did come across really well in the Man City documentary, and players have raved about him. So hopefully that's something that he's gained experience from, and he's going to know how to handle this. But you and I know, once you put a camera on someone, the behavior changes. They either become more introverted or they rise to it and they love it. And we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, I think it is going to be insightful. I don't think you'll see Stan Kroenke, that's for sure. I think you'll see Josh.
I think
you'll see Josh because I think he will want to be seen, and to be honest, I think do you think any of this is kind of linked to the whole Josh saying that there's going to be more openness and more transparency? Do you think they've done this as kind of a "see, told you so" kind of thing?
I think that's a PR perspective versus the reality of it. I think the reality of it is that COVID has hit us hard. It's hit football hard. I think people think that, clubs have bottomless pockets. Owners may have bottomless pockets, and our owners definitely do. I mean, I'm reading an article the other day in the newspaper about Samuel Jackson and, Magic Johnson on the mega yacht. I can't remember what it's called, but it was used in the TV show Succession as well in the very last episode. And that was bought by Anne Walton Kroenke. And the thing is worth like hundreds of millions of dollars. It's the mega yacht of the world. So there's no doubt that we have an owner with bottomless pockets, not only his own, but his wife's family too. But that's not the point. That's not what he does. He's not an Abramovich. He just doesn't operate that way. So we need the money. We've been hit hard. We've let people go. We're trying to cut our wage bill. The reason why we're not seeing as many transfers right now is because we need to sell before we can buy as well. So they had to make a move, and, they had to bring in more coffers. The world is different now. It's changed. And Arsenal Football Club have suffered as many businesses have around the world. And football is not immune, to COVID and what's happened from that from a fiscal point of view.
It's going to be an exciting and intriguing series, and next season there is going to be a lot of focus when things go wrong. You are going to see comments on social media like, "Oh, I can't wait to see that in the documentary."
Exactly.
Expect that to be the focus of
they start shooting in 2 weeks, I think, and I think they'll be in Orlando, so that's where it will kick off. Yeah. Let's hope Magic Mike doesn't do anything crazy that,
oh God, he's going to get himself in it, isn't he? He's going to be in it. For those that are wondering who that is, Mike from the Gooners podcast. If you aren't checking out his show, please make sure you do, and help support Gooners versus Cancer as well, 100%. Yes. Let's talk a bit more transfers.
Sure.
I want to get your view on kind of the whole social phenomenon that is ITKs. We talk about them a lot on the channel. In fact, every Sunday we do. I don't know if you've seen what I've been doing as a bit of a joke with the ITK rater thing on Twitter. Obviously, the Bell tweeted out today about Maddison, and it came out, I think it was about 6 o'clock, talking about Maddison. And one of the things that I talk about with ITKs is one of the things that ITKs I notice do is like the guaranteed fake ones is that they're very hostile when anyone ever calls them out. Like whenever anyone see like, I don't believe you, where's your source, what is this? Usually they send like a barrage of like, or I told you so's, or wait and see, or just, a load of vile abuse. And that usually for me is a big sign that something's not right. And because from my perspective, the very few small, tiny little tidbits of information that I ever get about anything through just being in the industry, as you probably are very well aware of the fact of that. If I ever say it, I don't need to tell anyone I told you so, or just trust me or whatever, because it'll either happen or it won't. And I've not got enough kind of stock in the game for it to ever be embarrassing. So it's effectively how it goes. But with the bell is a really interesting thing. And I'm really interested in it because you've got this account that's now verified on Twitter. Now, verification isn't the be all and end all. I mean, we know accounts that you can effectively buy verification if you know the right people. And so you've got this account with 120,000 plus followers that last summer got the Thomas Partey story absolutely bang on the money. And it does go to show, and we know from our good friend Mike, who heard from a very good source of his that Raul Sanllehi was going to get sacked. And lo and behold, the next day, he got sacked. And the Gerbil account that Mike ran absolutely blew up. It got to over 10,000 followers. But because that was the only little bit of information that you got, it wasn't really sustainable at that level. So now the bell was like taken on basically the number one follow for Arsenal fans wanting any kind of what they feel to be legit transfer news. And after all of that setup, Sophie, I want to know, do you believe the bell?
Do you want to hit? Okay. Okay. How can I say this? Why can't people be transparent? Like, why are they hiding? Who are they? Like, who is the bell? Do you know what I think? This might sound crazy.
Go on. I love these conspiracy theories.
I think it's Arsenal Football Club.
Really? You think it's someone behind the scenes at Arsenal?
I think that knowing PR and entertainment, and I don't want to smash the universe for a lot of people, but
it's all allegedly, by the way, people. Allegedly.
It's very allegedly. This is my own conspiracy theory, people.
Yeah.
But in entertainment, you know, some actors, when they're going to go to a restaurant, their publicists give a tip off to the restaurant that they're coming. Why? Because it's relevant for them to be in the newspapers. It's relevant for them to kind of stay in the world of popular culture. There have been some talent that have been found out with these pseudo accounts, right, over the years, countering kind of negative press and things like that. And I always feel like in today's world where authenticity and transparency is really important, just who are you? Come out. Like, at first I thought it was Mesut Ozil, to be honest with you.
Oh God, imagine.
And then with the Thomas Partey thing, I mean, it was bang on, wasn't it? How can you be that bang on? I mean, Ornstein has been, you know, I mean, he's been the Ornicore, as they call him, the guy for years, Charles Watts, and you got Chris Wheatley now and people like that. But that was so like to the T, dotting the I's and crossing the T on all the information. So I just think that you can't have that type of detail unless, number one, you're really connected with an agent or someone, or number two, you're connected somehow to the club and the club want to dictate the narrative. Now, this is purely my own speculation and my own opinion and my own little theory. I've not heard anything from anyone about that. I do not know if that's true, but when it's consistently correct, you have to wonder that person has to be really connected somehow. That's just my own 2 cents.
Well, our very own ITKs joined us, the gerbil. Says the Bellies are frauds. Good to have you in here, Mike. As always, absolute pleasure. I genuinely, I find ITK such a fascinating as a kind of a concept, and within the because we love talking about social stuff on the channel. We love talking about kind of abuse on the channel in regards to how you deal with that and how you should just block and move on. And so, I mean, John talk a lot about mental health on the channel and about dealing with being kind of a face in kind of the community and having a following, and obviously all the abuse and trolling that goes on with that and how you deal with it. But the ITKs is such an interesting concept and something that happens every single transfer window, because the kind of the aura around the comments as well, like the quote tweets of an ITK account. And if you ever question like one as well, the little minions that they go for you, it's an amazing social experiment. And obviously I know for a fact, because I know of people that have done it, is that people build up accounts to a certain level of following and then sell them.
Right.
And you can sell accounts for thousands of pounds if you get a certain amount of following on there, and if you know the right way to do it. And usually it's people that have a very good background in kind of social media management and stuff like that can do it. That's the whole kind of selling point of being an ITK, is that. And then the thing is with someone like the Bell, or the account like the Bell, is that now they got to the stage where they called everything right on the Partey thing. You've got 120,000 plus followers. That account with a verification is worth tens of thousands of pounds,
right?
Without a doubt, because it can be used in marketing or influencing in any way. So trying to work. Go on. Yeah, go on.
They disappeared for a while, didn't they? After the Thomas Partey thing, it was like done. And was there some talk of it maybe being sold to someone? I don't know about that, but
so that thing was basically. I mean, I don't know. This is, again, allegedly, people don't take this as gospel, but there was a thing about someone got annoyed. Someone within kind of, I don't know if it was within the club, I can't remember, or someone was getting basically a bit irritated about this and flagged it up. And basically I heard that people behind the scenes got approached and had to kind of stop things. I don't know how legit that is. That was purely kind of Chinese whispers, one person to another. Who knows? And then the other thing is about kind of when you see, for me, like the account changed personality this summer. Like some of the tweets seem very different from what they were last summer. Like you've got the whole like God willing thing and like some of the characteristics that we're saying, but I have noticed kind of a shift between how they tweeted last season, how they tweet this season.
This is why I thought it was Ozil, or he owned it somehow. Because when he left and when he was kind of like, petering out, the Bell kind of went quiet too. So I don't know. It's fascinating. I think it's hilarious when you do those call outs too, by the way, because everyone knows someone who saw someone at the airport or the coffee shop, or said that, apparently someone's brother was in, Usam Aouar's brother was in London the other day.
Oh, that was hilarious. Have you seen he had to actually come out and say, he's not my brother, leave him alone. Arsenal fans are mad, and you got to love them for it.
There's part of it that is very, very entertaining and stuff like that. But like many people say, until you see the photo or the official announcement from the club, nothing is set in stone. And luckily there are really good journos out there who are doing great things, trying to kind of keep fans informed and stuff like that. But my goodness, it's going to be a long summer, guys. But batten down the hatches, fasten the seatbelt, because the transfer window still has another 2 months, Tom, to go. Is it 2 months?
It's August 31st.
August 31st. Yeah. So close to that. But yeah, I also find like the people that think they definitively know something. No, we don't know anything. We really don't. And there are a lot of shows like yours that talk to the right people and deliver content that is based on, okay, so are we interested in this player? Fine. I'm not saying that we're going to sign them, but what you're doing is you're presenting what that player could offer the Arsenal. And you're talking to experts about it. And then when you know something, you kind of say it. But the social media and like trying to swim through the swamp sometimes is really, really tough.
It's really hard. And it's really frustrating as well from a point of view of like, for us, for instance, who obviously you graft every day and you're kind of building up kind of a channel or a platform, and you want as many people to see it as possible. Because I mean, for me, this is now my job. It's like part of my job, and so obviously you want to produce content that's popular and that people are going to want to try and watch and tell their friends about, etc. And so when you see other accounts that just tweet out a bit of info that's completely made up but very well thought through, and it can be done, and that was there was part of me that was debating. I was like, do I make my own account just to show how easy it is to try and preempt information? Because I used this as an example. I said, we've done 60, tomorrow will be the 69th daily transfer show. And in every single one of those shows, I've reported, thanks, mate. Every single one of those shows, we've reported on different information. Every single day there's news. And the thing is with that is that as soon as you add a kind of a little bit of vagueness to a tweet, or within the next few days we will hear something happen, or we're expecting something soon, that's nailed on, because football moves so fast. If you tweet something like you're expecting it to happen, that talks are ongoing, and you leave it very vague, there's all of the hope in the world that that will come true, because the likelihood is that it will, because it's a well thought out guess of what's happening. And all of a sudden you've got a following and people are buying onto this and retweeting it. And obviously, usually they can have multiple accounts with several followers that retweet each other and spread that round. It's so easy to build up these side of things. And when you're looking at it from the perspective like me and you that are building up this as legit as feasibly possible, it's incredibly frustrating.
Let's start a rumor, Tom. Let's do it. We could do it right now, the two of us together. Listen, I did something fun on the show. I was like, I wanted Sergio Ramos at Arsenal because I think we need a couple players with a little bit more shithousery, right? Kieran Tierney has this understated shithousery about him that I love. He talks smack on the pitch to players. We saw it in the Europa League knockout phases. Dennis Bergkamp had that. I love that about Dennis. He was so sophisticated and such a beautiful artist of football, but he had this shithousery about him. Every now and again, dodgy tackle, letting people know. And I just think that's part of the Arsenal, that we became too nice, too polite, too whatever. And so when we did the transfer show with Potsy and Kev, I was like, I want Sergio Ramos at Arsenal. And then today I was reading that, you know, his advisors liked the idea of him joining Arsenal. We made an offer, but he didn't want it, of course, because we didn't have Champions League football. But we could say something today. You know, we could say, well, Ronaldo's not happy at Juventus. He might be bored. Does he want to be a legend and come to Arsenal and like get us back into European football, and boom, boom, boom. But yeah, I mean, it's very easy to be misconstrued or say something that's taken a certain way, and then that's the narrative, right? So, yeah.
I mean, for instance, as an example, I wrote an article at the start of the window. I think it's about a month ago now, and it was about how to avoid being fooled by ITKs. In fact, I'm trying to get it up on the screen. On the 2nd of June. So on the 2nd of June, I wrote this piece. I'll try and share the screen so you can see it. I wrote this piece about how you can avoid basically getting fooled by these ITKs. And in it, I was trying to show that you can basically be how easy it is to try and guess things. So I think within the piece I wrote, thirdly, reflect. Think about if a rumor makes sense. Should this be about a player joining? Is the player under a long-term contract? Has that club been linked to any other players in a similar position as a sign that they're looking for a replacement? Have the buying club already sold players in that position or are looking to upgrade? These can also be signs that a story may be too good to be true because everything aligns so perfectly. And I used the example on June 2nd, saying a fictional example of this might be that Inter Milan are interested in Hector Bellerin. Achraf Hakimi has been linked with a move away from Inter, whilst Bellerin is looking a likely departure from Arsenal. However, no reputable sources are yet linking the Spaniard to the Italian champions. Lo and behold, look where we are now. Hector Bellerin is being linked to Inter Milan, because it was so foreseeable. Like, you could see that link coming up at some point in the window. Like, I could guess that was going to happen. And I didn't suddenly make an ITK account and turn around and say that Inter Milan are going to move for Bellerin. I could have done, because it was that easy, as I've shown there, to guess that move was going to happen. And that's what I mean. Is it shows you how easy it can be to kind of make. But you're using
your gut instinct and your knowledge, right? As a writer, as a broadcast journalist, to kind of see, okay, if he's going to PSG, we're trying to sell someone, they need a replacement. Why not? Right? There's certain parts where you're storytelling, but in a way of it makes sense for certain clubs to do certain things, versus trying to claim that this person is going here and that person is going there. And that's the biggest difference, because at the end of the day, Tom, you're a storyteller through your writing and stuff and your shows, but you're also trying to present information to Arsenal fans to digest and say, these are the possibilities. This is what we're looking at. This is the club we are. These are the players we're in for. But I'm also going to tap into experts who have seen Nuno Tavares play, who have seen Lokonga play, who have seen all of these players, whether it's at academy level, under 23 level as well. Something that I want to do a little bit more of next season, to understand and learn more about the younger players coming through the Arsenal as well. So I just find social media has given everyone the ability to be their own news network, but not every social media account warrants being their own news network. Everyone wants a voice. Everyone wants to be heard. And social media has given people that platform. And it's a beautiful, wonderful thing. But it also comes with some pitfalls because it's just, I remember initially being in PR at 20th Century Fox, where journalists from like the Times and the Mirror, and I could, name a few, were really put out by the bloggers of the world coming into the universe, and then the YouTubers and stuff like that. And the landscape has completely changed. They don't, the traditional journalists don't own that landscape anymore. And there are new voices and there are fantastic platforms that are able to share information and create really good content. But then there's the other side to that, where people utilize it as a means to either make money or become notorious themselves. And that's where, for me, the rubber meets the road where social media is concerned.
The thing about football is that, like, dream scenario is always going to be wanting to have a job in football and make football your life, so that every single minute of the day that I think about football anyway is a way of a career. The side of it is that usually if you're in the footballing world, you have a bit of a profile and that you build up a bit of a following. And it's very difficult to, in a way, look at, say, someone who's producing content, someone who's trying to create something, and then for that kind of the idea of some people to perceive them going, you're doing this just for the attention, just for the fame, just for the monetization of it, etc. So when you're talking about there, like people getting threatened about kind of the YouTubers and that sort of thing coming onto the scene, it's purely because it worked. Like, YouTube is an incredibly lucrative place to be if you can be successful. And with that will always come envy and people wishing they were in your position, I suppose, is the best way to say it.
It's a great point. Someone made a point on the show the other day, and I thought it was really interesting. They said that they thought the all or nothing deal was for Arsenal to be able to control the narrative a little bit more. Because I think they lost control of the narrative since maybe the end of Unaya's tenure. And we have a very strong social media team. And I think it's been noted many times that Arsenal has one of the best kind of social media engagements of any club, around the world. But what Arsenal Football Club lost control of for maybe the very first time since Wenger left was the narrative, but it started falling apart under Wenger, right? The flying the planes over, the disdain, the unhappiness, all of that. And so this is a chance for the club, I think, to rebuild the image in a very public way, not only on its own turf, Tom, in England, but around the world as well. And I think there's some merit to that. I really do.
I think that the thing that people obviously need to understand is when they watch the documentary, whenever it comes out, is that you have to take it with and know that you're watching it through Arsenal glasses and not your own bias being a fan, but the glasses that Arsenal are putting on you when you watch that program. It's going to be interesting. But
we're so tribal, aren't we? I mean, look.
Yeah.
I love Lee Judges to bits, but he can't celebrate Harry Kane scoring a goal for England, right?
Yeah.
And that's Lee's opinion, and he's entitled to that. That's how he feels. He's been wearing the Arsenal shirt and badge for many, many years. Like, he's been through the ups and downs, the dross and the beauty of being an Arsenal fan. I think that we're so rose-colored glasses sometimes that, we have to take a step back and look at things, a little bit differently. Now, I agree with him on a lot of things. I don't agree with him on this. If people are out there loving and supporting Saka, Harry Kane's the captain of England. I separate the two. He's not playing for Tottenham. He's playing for England, right? So I think there's a big difference, but this is the world we live in.
I went absolutely mental when he scored that goal against. All that night, it's completely forgotten to me.
The penalty and
Denmark.
the rebound, or the Denmark?
Is who we played. Jesus, that was bad. I'm like, who did we play? That night is just forgotten. But yeah, I went mad when that goal went in. And and the thing is like when it's Arsenal, it's Arsenal. When it's England, it's England. I'm an England fan, and there's kind of a bad smell around England, and you can understand why, because all of the politics associated with England in the current state of affairs. And I think that sometimes that gets a little bit lost. I know that there's a lot of people globally that do not want to see Arsenal. You see what I mean?
That too.
Them too. You don't want to see England win tomorrow because of the perception of the arrogance of the England supporter base with the whole "it's coming home" situation. And for me, I don't look at that as arrogance. I mean, we haven't won a trophy in 55 years?
55 years.
Yeah, 55 years since 1966. We can't, there's no arrogance. This is purely us having as great of a time as we've had in 55 years. And the likelihood is we may still not win tomorrow. Correct. But frankly, right now, we don't care about tomorrow's result right now. We'll care about that during the game. Right now, we care about everything other than the result. And that is building up this to be the most hilarious, most euphoric feeling of getting to an international tournament final that it is. So I don't look at it as arrogance from an England perspective. And I know that I'm biased because I'm English. But I look at it very much as...
But you should be. You should be proud. Like, my parents are from Cyprus, right? I support everything Greek, Cypriot, and Greece. So when Greece won 2004, the Euros in 2004, it was magical. Like, I never thought I'd see that. But I'm a born and bred Londoner, born and bred in North London. Palmer's Green, aka Palmer's Greek, right? There's nothing more I'd love than to see England win a major final. And if you're in Italy, they're going crazy about their team. They're saying crazy stuff about their team. If you're in Spain during their, euphoric times and whatever, look at us. You never know when you're going to go back, Tom. 2006 Champions League final. We've never been back. And we've been out of it now for so long. I said on the show the other day, Dan Marino, one of the best quarterbacks in the world, gets to a Super Bowl. Everyone's like, oh, don't worry. He lost this one, but he'll be back. Never went back, ever. Now's the time. Enjoy it. And people trying to take that away from England fans. If you actually listen to the lyrics, read the lyrics of the 3 lines, it's about heartache. It's about pain, right? Yeah. And so don't take that away from England fans. And I think... a really good friend of mine, and I think you've probably heard about him and read about him back home, DJ Tony Perry, who's been doing all the music. And, his grandfather and my dad were besties. Like, his family have been in the events and entertainment industry for years. If you ever went to a Greek or Turkish Cypriot wedding back in the day, it was done by the Perry family, right? And to see him kind of playing the type of music after we beat Germany, and he plays Sweet Caroline, and the Germans are singing to it, and the England fans are singing to it, and everyone's coming together, especially after this time. You can't bag on people for supporting their country and wanting to see them win. Yes, is there some arrogance to what we've done in the past with the double page spread in the newspaper and putting your hands on Beckham or Rooney and things like that? I think this is a different England team with a different attitude, a different culture, and a totally different way of managing. And I think people getting behind them and loving them is very easy.
The team's so much more likable than it ever was for me. Like, even when you add a lot more Arsenal players playing in the England team back in the past, this for me is such a more likable squad. But Agreed. I mean, in regards to kind of like the England kind of crowd and stuff, this is great. I never get to talk about England on the channel, like never. The crowd, elements of the crowd have done some really horrible stuff during the tournament. The booing of the taking of the knee, the booing of the national anthems. And the thing is, I think a lot of people just say England fans were doing that, and obviously it's important that you say a small minority of England fans were doing that. Thankfully, the majority weren't, and eventually, especially with the taking a knee, a lot of the fans were kind of clapping and drowning out the booing that was going on. And it's not. It annoys me that obviously that these fans do this, and it's especially with the national anthem side of things as well, because that took a whole different kind of perspective as well with what happened to Denmark throughout this tournament and the emotional roller coaster that they've been on as well. That the fact that still some individuals booed the national anthem of Denmark or of anyone, even like talking about anyone. That for me is really, it annoys me. It's a hard one to kind of put into words, I suppose, talking about the annoyance around
It is. Every nation has a portion of people that are complete and utter idiots with no class. And these are facts. I mean, look at some of the nations that aren't taking a knee. That's up to them. That's their decision. Now, you can agree with it. You think it's right or wrong. But these things happen. And the fact that I think, you know, I live in America. There's a lot of crap going on here now. I saw Mike Hertz just make a comment in the chat about, you know, the arrogance of Ferdinand's comment. I live in a country that is very arrogant, right? Every country has arrogance, has beauty, and has negativity. It's just the way of life. You know, people in your life, maybe some people in your family that are positive and negative. There are some people that do good things. There are some people that do bad things. And the idiots that are booing the team, they're going to make the news. The people that are applauding the team or doing good things aren't going to make the news because it doesn't yield as many clicks. It doesn't yield as much coverage, does it? So I think you have to look at everything from, you know, that perspective. Look at what's happened with Hungary and some of the stories in the tournament. UEFA itself refused to put the rainbow up on the Bayern Munich stadium. So fans can behave badly, but the organizations that represent supposedly clubs, fans, countries don't always get it right either. And we've got a lot to learn still as humans, Tom. But I do think it's generally been a tournament of good faith, and the booing, yes, it happens. Every country, it's obviously more prominent because we're seeing those games at Wembley, but it happens everywhere. It doesn't make it right, 100%.
Well, hopefully it's going to be an unbelievably good final for everyone that's got. I've got some lucky bastards that are going to the final. Honestly, I'm so jealous. But I'm going to be enjoying it here with a few friends and watching it. What are you going to be doing for the final?
I was thinking about typical, like throwing a party, you know, my partner Tony's done an amazing thing. I'll send you some pictures actually on WhatsApp, actually ironing the St. George's flag for me, which is right behind me right here. Soccer balloons and everything everywhere. And she was like, do you want to have a party? And I'm like, I've watched the games just on my own with my dogs, right? And we've gotten to the final, and I'm not changing now. Yeah, no, I'm not. So basically, it's me, my dogs, my partner, some St. George's flags, a little bit of wine, and hopefully a win.
Yeah, a friend of mine texted me who's coming tomorrow. He said, "What's your address?" And I was like, "It's a bit suspicious." Why do you need to know my address? And he was like, "Oh, I'm thinking about buying some air horns." And I was okay, right. Let me just text the other half. And I had to unfortunately tell him, I was like, if you want to buy air horns, that's fine. However, you do need to go to each one of my individual neighbours and let them know that you're going to do that. At which point he backed down. So no air horns on Sunday. My neighbours will be very happy about that. He's the type that just gets he wants to be as loud as possible, centre of attention, loud as possible. We watched the Germany game, and when he's had a few drinks, he just lets go and he just screams. And I
love it. We all have one of those mates, though, don't we? And sometimes it's fun, and sometimes it's not. I realised I'm getting some. I said soccer, and it's like football, of course, you guys. But it's like, come on, it is what it is. I'm also looking forward to the Copa America final later today.
I'm so gutted it's so late. I mean, it's
God,
they not think about me? Not thinking about us in Europe. Why are they not thinking about no? I think it's great that, to be fair, that it's actually at that time. Like, I get a little bit sick of how commercialized game times can become and changing the time so it fits in with a different continent and wanting to watch it. So, you know, fair play for them keeping that at is it 1 a.m. I think this morning
it's
UK time.
It's 5 o'clock our time, so that will be 1 a.m. your time. It's Neymar v Messi. Neymar's getting real kind of aggressive on social media with everybody. And
have you seen the Brazilian? I can't remember her name. There's a Brazilian reporter that said that she posted a picture on Instagram wearing an Argentina shirt, saying that she supported Messi because it's like, just use the word justice for him, like winning. And there's a lot of apparently Brazilian supporters that are actually backing Argentina because they want to see Messi win the tournament.
It's crazy. And Neymar put out a statement.
Yeah.
And basically used the F-bomb a couple times. And rightly so. I mean,
100%.
Why would anyone who's born in, I get it. Like if you've been hard done by somehow, okay, fine, I get it. But I mean, I've lived in America for a long time. I'm going to support the US women's national team at the Olympics, of course, but I'm going to support England and my heritage. And that's, Greece and Cyprus and stuff. So, I mean, any Brazilian supporting Argentina, especially with it being like a border rivalry. Wow, I'm shocked. So it's going to be fiery tonight.
There's another great discussion, and something that, and to be honest, one of the things about doing YouTube is that I've been educated so much over the last 6 years. I'm such a different person now as I was then, have different views about different things just from not being a very educated person 6 years ago that I very much am now. And one of the things I see is a lot of people pointing out kind of the heritage of a lot of the English squads, like where Sterling from, where Saka's from, where Calvin Phillips is from, and seeing kind of the backgrounds of the different players and seeing how diverse the England team is and how awesome that is. And I remember used to be even up until recently, and I realized how wrong it is. And I'm not afraid to admit my own mistakes of what and where I've learned from that. But I used to say things like obviously they're born in England, so obviously they play for England. And I was just I would always have that mindset of, okay, but they were born in England, so they're England. But now I look back on that and go, you moron! Like, well, obviously it's great to celebrate the fact that they've got all of that heritage from different backgrounds in the England team. And I think it was Lewis. You may know Lewis. He comes to a lot of the Arsenal games. He hasn't got a channel, but he has been on channels before. And he put something up on Facebook today about Saka and Raheem Sterling and some of the other players that are in the team. I can't remember all of them. Calvin Phillips is another one because he's got Irish and Jamaican heritage, Calvin Phillips. And the amount of people in the comments that said things that I was situated in months ago, and I said the same thing, like, but they were born in England. And it really frustrated me, but I can't. It's a really difficult situation because you look back and you then feel guilty because you think, well, I used to be in that situation. Well, I wasn't educated into that sense of looking at it from the perspective of how great it is for all of those. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I totally understand. The first time I really got a glimpse of that was the Republic of Ireland, especially under Jack Charlton. I think that was the first time we saw this. Your grandparents, if you have your heritage and stuff like that, and so maybe from a Generation X point of view, we kind of got used to that with certain nations and teams. I definitely got a full flavor and taste of it. I did a show here for a couple of years with Jermaine Jones, the US men's national team player who played very successfully in Bundesliga for a number of years. And Jermaine used to say to me and stuff like that too. He felt as American as anybody else, even though he is born in Germany. His heritage, a lot of the part of like him and other players is here. And there have been people here critical of some of the team that have been called up to the national team too. But, my dad's Greek. I was born in London. I feel like as much of both, right? Yeah. And if I got
it should be a choice. It's down to you. Like,
absolutely. Yeah. And there's players like, obviously, like Grealish. That's probably the biggest, most high profile one that we can point to now. And it happens a lot here with the Mexico and American national teams as well, who people are going to play for and pledge their allegiance to.
France to Spain in the Euros, Laporte.
Yep, absolutely. Our very own Patrick Vieira. Look at Vieira. So
I mean, there's obviously you get a lot of Algerian players that then switch to France for allegiance of that. I think is Karim Benzema one of those. It's just so. It really frustrates me when you see the criticism of it. Like, I understand in a way, like I think Diego Costa got a hell of a lot of criticism from a Brazilian standpoint when he switched to Spanish allegiance.
Great example.
And we've seen Laporte do it from France to Spain. And you're thinking, look, just it's their choice. Like, just let them choose. Like, I mean, Laporte, for instance, wasn't getting close. Had represented, I think, the French youth side up to like 50 times at different levels. Never got a look in for the French national team. Lived most of his life in Bilbao. Then moved, obviously, to Manchester with City. If he wants to go and represent Spain because he feels more Spanish because he's lived in Spain all his life, pretty much. Let him represent Spain.
Right.
It's staggering. It really is.
Tom, there are even some reports, and we say that very loosely, that Messi has felt at times more Spanish than, being from Argentina because he's been there since he was a child, And I've lived in America now. I mean, I come home a lot, but I've been here. It's my 20-year anniversary this year. I mean, I came here as a kid, really, but I love this country. It's full of good people. It's full of great people that do amazing things. Like every other country has systematic and huge issues and problems, of course. Yeah. But come the Olympics, I'll be cheering on the athletes from England and from the US. And, I have the opportunity to become a citizen here. That's where, for me, like, that's a big decision. But at the same time, it's been my home and it feels like, this is my country. But when you have the beauty of various cultures, guys, I tell you something, there's nothing like learning. I was watching something on Now this morning, this guy who's traveled to every single country in the world. And I'm like, wow, his story's incredible. And he said, like you, Tom, he's learned so much about, maybe he grew up and he was a little bit prejudiced about things. And through travel and learning about other cultures, he educated himself, and he's become a much better person for it too. So at the end of the day, if someone's happy and they're doing what they love, how can you take that away from them?
100%. Like, it's like with the whole side of cancel culture, like I understand, like with cancel culture, I understand the idea of seeing things like that wanting to be cancelled. But for me, trying to convince someone or educate someone to change their views is so much better. Like, it's so much better because then you got more people in the world that have a better standpoint and viewpoint on things. So that's why on the channel we're always not educating, but we're always encouraging, is the right word, people to change their mind on things. As I'm sure, Sophie, you will on Arteta very soon. So
maybe.
What a setup that was. It took 20 minutes to get there. No. Anyway, we are going to round things off there. If you are supporting England in the final, people, thank you. If you're supporting Italy, I'm not going to wish you luck because I don't want Italy to win. I very much want England to win, but I hope you enjoyed the game all the same. Sophie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Love it.
Took up more time than I said I was going to, but the conversation was flowing. Yeah. So we went for it. Tell people where they can find you and give the Highbury Squad a shout out.
Thank you so much for having me. And I love conversations like this as well, because they're a little bit of life and football all mixed together. You're doing a fantastic job, Tom. Always love the invitation to come on the show. Keep smashing it and doing your thing. If you want to give us a shout out and, give us a try, we're at Highbury Squad on YouTube, guys. And I'm at Soccer Diva on Twitter, and it's at Highbury Squad everywhere else. You can find us. We're taking a bit of time off now. The Euros are going to be over, but we go out every day and we have a variety of different shows talking about a lot of different things. So thank you for the opportunity to share that, Tom.
Absolute pleasure, as always. There's a lot of love for you in the chat box. If you could please go over to the Highbury Squad and give them a look and watch some of their shows, and of course subscribe to their channel as well, Soph and Kev, and a lot of expanding guests. I see you signed up Chris today to be a French correspondent, which is a great bit of business. More business than Arsenal done this time.
That's what I see. I've got more signings to come this weekend too, so you'll be happy that someone in the Arsenal community is doing some signings. So yeah, thanks.
Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. We'll be back tomorrow morning for the 69th show.
Hello.
So there you go. There's going to be plenty of jokes tomorrow morning. Not from me, just from the chat box. That's all you're going to get from me today. Of course, it would be that on the 69th show is when we first talk about Arsenal have made a signing. Of course, that's just the way the world works. That's how it works here, people. So please do join us for that. And then very quickly for the next day, which will be the 70th show, we can move on for all of the euphemisms and everything to do with that. So that'll be great. And of course, we'll be back again next week for the podcast and plenty of tactical breakdowns for the multitude of players that we're going to get linked to for the rest of the window. You can follow us at the Gooner Talk TV and myself at Tom Cantor Media as well. We'll see you again very, very soon, guys. And as always, up the Arsenal.